All right. So thank you. I want to officially welcome you all to the session on flexibility in relating. Thank you for being here to support the launch of Jim Mansky's book, The Pathways to Nonviolent Communication. Right now I'm feeling really grateful and blessed. I'm really hoping to contribute needs for deeper learning and connection and growth here in our session. Each of the presentations during our event are going to relate to one of the skills in the skills matrix. This tool was developed about a decade ago by Jim and Joy Mansky, as well as Jake Gottwals and Jack Lehman. The purpose of the matrix is to support self-assessment in the skills and consciousness of nonviolent communication. So in a few minutes, I'll be sharing my experience of developing my own skill in the flexibility of relating. First, so I want to say a few words about the Center for Nonviolent Communication. CNVC was started by Marshall Rosenberg and his colleagues more than 35 years ago to help make nonviolent communication available for everyone that would like to learn it. Since then, CNVC has developed a network of certified trainers offering NVC training around the world. Because of the effects of the global pandemic, CNVC has lost an important source of stability because the in-person international intensive trainings are on hold. Although CNVC has made adjustments, including creating an innovative virtual intensive training online, we still need your support to continue our mission. So there's two ways that you can support us right now. The first is by buying as many copies as you can of Jim's new book, as many as you joyfully can. We always want our actions to come from a true state of joy. So that's one way that you can support us right now. And I'll be putting a link in the chat for you in just a moment. The profits from all of the book sales will go to CNVC. Both Jim and the Puddle Dancer Press are donating 100% of the proceeds to support the Center for Nonviolent Communication. The books are only $10 a piece, so they make great gifts for upcoming holidays of all sorts. The book includes several strategies to support you and others in deepening your understanding and integration of the nonviolent communication skills. So I'm going to post this in the chat, which will take me just a moment. Copy and post to everyone. There we go. And then the second thing, please consider becoming a monthly sponsor for the Center for Nonviolent Communication. By choosing a regular donation amount, you support CNVC's ability to plan for the future. So I'm going to put in another link for that. And I really want to thank you for joining our mission. And with that, I'm about to go into flexibility in relating. So one thing I wanted to let you know, I have Jan running in the background here as my support person, tech support. And Jan, I want to thank you for volunteering to play that role. I also, I forgot to print my notes, and I really want to make sure that I'm thorough in terms of what I'm sharing with all of you. So there's times that I'm going to be opening another screen, which means I will not be able to see this screen while I have the other one open. So Jan, I would love it if somebody raises their hand, or if there's something that's really important in the chat that you see, if you would just come off of mute and let me know. I just want to make sure that I'm covering everyone. I see your thumb up. Thank you so much for that. All right, so flexibility in relating. So first of all, I wanted to share the definition, and this comes straight from the skills matrix. What flexibility in relating is its openness and versatility in interacting with others. In other words, we have a lot of choice, and with that choice, we have the ability to more greatly align with our own values. I have a favorite quote from a friend and a musician. He's a global troubadour. He travels the world playing sacred music. And one of the things that he says is, "Blessed are the flexible, for they shall never be bent out of shape." So this is something I love. Of course, the opposite of flexibility and versatility would be rigidity, and something that would be more in the vein of me saying, well, it's my way or the highway. It has to be my way. It should be this way. And so that is where I was 15 years ago when I first found nonviolent communication. I tried to be flexible in many ways, but there were some things that, it was really hard. And so one example of that is I had gone through a very difficult divorce, and I was receiving child support from my ex-husband, but his income went way up from the time we had first divorced until 10 years later, when I guess it was 8 years later officially, when I found nonviolent communication. And so I remember just time and time again in my mind, or sometimes out loud, I'd be thinking, he should be paying me 2 to 3 times what he's paying me. And I felt very indignant. So, indignant, angry, at sometimes scared and stressed. So, if we were to make a scale of how I felt, and this is I feel horrible, and this is I feel wonderful, anytime I had this thought that he should be paying me more, and I will say I had reason based on the way calculations are made of how much somebody should pay in child support. I had reasons to back up that I was right, but I was rigid in that. This is what it should be. I felt very upset. So my joy level was about here, right? Angry, frustrated, stressed, indignant, sad, disheartened. Sometimes irate. It's very difficult. So that's the unskilled level. There's 4 levels that we're looking at in the matrix. That was unskilled. I was stuck in that place. And the very first step to go from unskilled to that next level of awakening is to be able to, first of all, recognize, do you have a should that you're carrying? Is there some kind of something that you're looking at and you believe it should be a certain way, and it's not that way? So the first piece is to bring about awareness. Oh, I'm living in should thinking. And then ask yourself, can I move from should thinking to a preference? Rather than stating, it should be this way. He should do this. She should. They should do that. The world should be this way. Can you move to a state of preference? I would prefer if I received more child support. I would prefer if the person driving the car would drive slower. I would prefer, think of what is the statement that you've had that has been a should, what it might be to move into a preference. So that brought me into a state, the second stage in the matrix, a state of awakening. I also was learning nonviolent communication, and so I was able to start to identify the feelings and needs that were arising in me as it related to this experience and other experiences in my life. And so I'm going to put these feelings and needs lists in the chat. These are on the Google Drive. Feel free to open those and feel free to use them. You can download them, print them, share them. But they're also a really good reference for this session and any of the sessions that you're doing inside of, in nonviolent communication in general. These are 2 lists that we use very often. So when I moved from he should to a preference, what do you think that did to my state of emotions? Right? Do you think I was totally here? Or if I could authentically move to preference, maybe something's just a little bit lighter, starting to open up to the possibility that it's not so rigid, it's not so black and white. Maybe something else is possible here. So there's just this bit of relief that happened. And I was really able to recognize I needed I needed security and stability. I needed some ease. I needed well-being for my son, which included being able to drive him to friends' houses and to buy healthy food and to have forms of play, some of which needed some financial support. So I was able to start to notice some of these needs that were very important. And so that's moving again from unskilled to awakening. The next step is to move to being capable. And the distinction that's made inside of the skills matrix when it comes to moving from being awakening into being capable is that you're able to hear the feelings and needs from other people, regardless of how they're stated. So as you might imagine, my ex-husband did not always communicate with me in ways that felt wonderful and nurturing. In fact, for many, many years after our divorce, it came through in very, very painful statements. Oftentimes there was blame and criticism and make wrong. There was a lot of pain in our separation. And so that was continuing to fuel a lot of the ways in which we related. And I'm just so grateful for nonviolent communication, because this is really the key that helped us to shift that pattern. And it didn't take both of us. He never studied. It was just me really looking at how to apply these tools, and it shifted the dynamic. So I'm going to copy paste some of these statements in the chat as well. I know that not everybody in here speaks English, and I want to make sure that you have the ability to see these ones. Here are some of the statements that I received from my ex-husband as I shared with him my frustration and that I really wanted to receive more child support. And I was able to, at this point, speak in nonviolent communication and express my feelings and needs and requests. But I still was receiving a no. Right? And this is another thing in nonviolent communication. We're seeking to make requests instead of demands. And the distinction there is that with a request, we're willing to hear no. That is an answer, right? If we're not willing to hear no, it really is a demand. So he would say things like, my mom worked 2 full-time jobs to support us. You should be doing that too, Katrina. Okay, so notice how that would feel, how difficult it might be to receive something like that. You have your family as a safety net. I have nothing. It's all on me. This one's a little bit more vulnerable in his sharing, but still difficult. I want to own a home in a neighborhood that has excellent schools. I won't be able to do it if I've got 2 big child support bills to cover every month. No lender would let me borrow money I need under those circumstances. Part of the pain in our divorce is that he had another child while we were married. And so this was another dynamic that we were working with, as he had 2 child support payments. I work 80 hours a week, Katrina. I don't want to spend that money on your extracurricular activities. I shouldn't be paying for your lifestyle. I need to save for my own retirement. So these are some of the statements that I heard, right? He's not necessarily expressing feelings and needs directly, but as you might see, there are feelings and needs that are expressed in these statements. So when we're moving from awakening to capable, we're able to hear things like this and start to translate what's going on for this other person, rather than feeling angry and frustrated and defensive and correcting things, rather than denying their reality or making them wrong or criticizing. Can we start to go into empathy? And so at this point, I would love to have a little interactive piece. And based on these statements, what do you imagine my ex-husband was feeling and needing? And so I invite you can raise your hand to answer this question. You could also put your answers into the chat. I see Cara, you've raised your hand. I'd love to hear from you. If you would unmute yourself.
So I he's having a need for contribution and a need for shared reality. Those are two that were coming up.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Thank you. Yeah. And Jan, I'm not sure if I've said your name correctly. My apologies if I did not.
No, it's perfect. Thanks so much,
Oh,
Katrina.
wonderful.
I want to firstly just acknowledge that this is extreme. It seems extremely. I'm stunned because it seems very brave and vulnerable of you to put such a real example. I'm feeling really activated by the statements, and it's got nothing to do with me. I'm gonna put myself in the shoes of the husband, and I'll just take the last example, trying to feel what the speaker's feelings and needs could be, right? So if I were to say something like, I work so and so many hours, I don't want to spend money on your activities, I want my own retirement. His feel, or my, let's say mine, right? I'm feeling scared, right? I'm feeling afraid that I won't have enough for myself. I need security.
Yes.
And I shouldn't be paying for your lifestyle. It's a bit angry, right? I'm feeling a bit angry because I need fairness. Is I think what the stretch would be.
Thank you. I appreciate you for stretching, and I appreciate the bit of empathy you gave me on it too. We didn't go fully into empathy for me. I did just a little touch on it. Right. So thank you for expressing that, and thank you for stretching into imagining what was going on for him. I do believe that that was right on, and that's the stretch I needed to do to become capable. So thank you. Susan, love to hear from you next. So I can't hear you yet. I'll need to unmute you. I still can't hear you. I'm not sure why it's not working. It appears you're unmuted.
Suzanne, do you have your, okay.
I'm sorry, that was Jan. I thought I was hearing Susan's voice all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Is it working now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Working, excellent. I think it might be my mic. I was just going to say I'm going to carry on what Jan was saying.
Yes.
And that I felt in his words this need for, like he said, it was fear. I think anger was kind of protecting that fear and that scared and insecurity, his sense of insecurity. And I think it's also in levels, like his financial insecurity is hiding this very deep social insecurity. I think it has to do with his family not being supportive, and then having that emotional insecurity as well. And that kind of creates all these layers of anger, hiding fear, hiding. I don't know if that's right, but that's the sensation I got even in my body. Like that need for hug myself and to pat on my back and say it's okay. Someone has got your back.
Yeah,
in a way.
Yeah. Thank you, Susan. I'm really feeling a depth of sensitivity and empathy and care in your ability to feel into it that way. Those are guesses that I share. And those particular guesses are ones I've never checked in with him, because sometimes, if you ask these kinds of questions, somebody might say, oh, no, that's not what it is, even if it is. But my guessing that and sensing that could be running in the background has helped me to soften and to...
Especially with men.
Yes, especially with men. And to have a lot of compassion and care for him and remember to hold him as family, which he always is. So thank you. Thank you. Of course, if anyone else wants to raise your hand, please do. And in the meanwhile, I want to read some of the things that have come through the chat. So I see Clara said perhaps he needed appreciation. Aldous noticed how it's difficult. You're still feeling closed when you hear some of these statements. And I understand that. This is a stretch. This is a stretch. So it took me quite a bit to be able to move through feeling closed and to be able to open here. And so I see someone else saying, yes, me too. I felt annoyed. And then Aldous suggested that the last statement could be expressing fear. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really appreciating the notes. I see some needs for financial security, a form of security and fairness. And let's see, I see somebody sending love and care to everyone communicating, and with the people who are not using nonviolent communication. I don't know if I quite read that as it was intended, but it's how can we bring love and care to people who are not studying nonviolent communication, right? Can we be the ones to take that step and to say, I'm going to go past the judgments and the shaming and the criticism and make wrong that I'm hearing, and go a layer deeper to understand what are the feelings that are driving these communications and what are the needs. I'll take a pause on the chat. I see, Emmy, that you had raised your hand. Are you ready to share?
Yeah, actually, I was told similar thing by separated my husband 1 hour ago, so it just really me.
Wow.
I think from wife point of view, it's feel like it's not fair that economical remark is there, but from husband point of view, I think there is definitely pride and there is definitely insecurity, and definitely I think sort of looking down on you. In a way, he wants to classify that you are here because you are not financially supporting enough, contributing enough. And so for us, I'm sure you went through, but it's really hard to find that gap. So I think I kept saying that, okay, it's not about just the economical equality in the partnership. From, I think, his point of view, it is an important factor and it's a fact. So I'm grateful that something I can relate it to it. So
goodness, I feel sadness that you can relate to this. I feel sadness for anybody who can relate that personally to it, because it's such a difficult situation. And I'm glad that this presentation is timely for you, given what you're going through. Yes, sometimes it's a strategy with finances for somebody who is in greater financial power to feel security and power and autonomy and choice. They will go into a power dynamic of perceiving power over and superiority as a strategy to meet their own needs at the cost of the other person. And what we're seeking to do with nonviolent communication is to reduce cost to any person ever. So we're seeking to come into a place of recognizing that there is a great joy in relating as power with, that there's no inherent superiority or inferiority or greater power or lesser power. There are circumstances in which we experience some of those things. And what we're seeking to do is to come into a paradigm that is power with. How can we really uplift everyone around us as we are uplifting ourselves? How can we hold that whole web of life with care? Thank you, Emmy. Yeah. Going back to the chat, I see that Mike's husband probably had a need for understanding. Very similar to what I think it was Cara who said, a shared reality right in the beginning. Those two can be very closely connected. Need for stability and predictability. Now, this is not necessarily a universal need in terms of being on the list, but predictability, again, is a strategy that would really support the need for stability. If I can predict something, then I can choose in a way that's maintaining stability. Yeah, and that his need for love was probably not met. And so there's ways in which he is expressing his pain. I had quoted right in the beginning of this workshop a quote from a favorite musician, Fantuzzi, which is, "Blessed are the flexible, for they shall never be bent out of shape." He also, one of the songs he does is from a quote in the Course in Miracles. And that quote is, "It's all love or a calling for love." And so when I see this piece in the chat that he doesn't feel loved, so he's lashing out, I'd like to just invite you to consider anytime somebody's lashing out, their need for love in some way is not met. And it's their desperate plea. It's their calling for love. Again, this is a possible belief that you could take on that inspires compassion, inspires us to recognize that somebody acting out of pain is calling for love. And then we always want to do self-empathy first. If we're in pain, fill your own cup first. You can use those feelings and needs list. You can have an empathy buddy to do that. And sometimes and that we can then turn and imagine, what is this other person feeling and needing, as a way to soften our hearts. We can also do a gratitude practice as another way to soften. All right, so that brings us to capability. When we are capable in this skill of flexibility and relating, we're able to hear these really difficult statements coming at us, and we're able to translate into feelings and needs. That next level is to be in integration. And so I want to again remind you, this was 15 years ago that I started on this path of nonviolent communication. And so this is not something that happens overnight. It's not like in this one session, you're going to go from unskilled to integrated, right? This is a practice. It's a practice. And what I'm really delighted to say is that after having practiced this for so many years, it's become much more natural. It's become much more of my go-to way of being. And that my ex-husband and I, we now have a very healthy relationship where we've been able to co-parent. My son is now fully grown. We've shared many Christmases and Mother's Day celebrations and birthday celebrations. So we were able to have a breakthrough in the first year that I was learning nonviolent communication with the support of trained facilitators and the gift of some mediated sessions. We were able to have some very significant breakthroughs. He did, on his own choosing, increase my child support, not to the degree I would have preferred, but to a degree that was workable. And what I got along with that is I received his expressions of appreciation and love. He actually looked into my eyes with tears in his eyes and said, "I love you, Katrina, and I want you well," and was much more attentive after that point. So it really supported our co-parenting. Our son is 23 and just really thriving now. And so we've been able to enjoy family connection and do a lot of healing after as I had shared, a very difficult divorce we'd had earlier in life. So that's the integration. And so again, when I was unskilled, my emotions were here. And then I went to preference, there was just a little bit of relief. And then when I went to capable and I was able to have real deep empathy for him, my heart opened up. My heart opened up. I was more effective in communicating with him. We were more effective in finding solutions that we could both authentically say yes to. And then it went to integrated, and I'm just, he got married this last year, and I'm just so delighted to see him happy and with a woman who he's just really in love with. It's such a different experience than I had 15 years ago. It's night and day difference. So I really give a lot of thanks to these tools for all of that. All right, so I wanted to bring you into a practice. And before we do that, are there any questions that have arisen. Again, you can raise your hand or you can put those in the chat. All right, I'm not seeing any questions right now, so I'm going to go on to the practice. And we're going to start by working with our thoughts a little bit, noticing how our thoughts can impact our emotions. So I want to invite you to choose a situation that's difficult for you. I want to encourage you not to choose something that's so painful that it could re-stimulate trauma, because we only have about 23 minutes to complete. And so this is not a container where we would be able to carry you through that sufficiently, especially in such a large group context. So choose something that's impactful, and something where you have a thought that a person should be a particular way, and they're not that way. And if you've got some place to write it down, I would encourage you to write it down, a notepad or your computer. If you don't, then feel free to just move through these steps, in as meditation, just imagine into it. So you want to come up with a should statement, and we're just going to have that in your mind. And I want to invite you to, if you'd like, you could close your eyes and repeat that should statement in your mind, and just feel what that's like. So you're just repeating that statement in your mind. Notice how that might impact your emotions. Notice the sensations in your body. Okay, and take a pause. So we are recreating the unskilled level of the matrix here. We're recreating the ick factor, I might say, the place that just can hurt, with the intention of bringing some relief in here. So the first step to move from this into a different experience is I'm going to have you repeat the statement in your mind, but this time you're going to add to the beginning of the sentence, I am telling myself a story that so-and-so should be doing X. I'm telling myself a story that, and then put in your should statement. Repeating this statement in your mind. Okay, and we'll take a pause. And now I invite you to repeat in your mind, I would prefer that so-and-so does X. Repeating this new statement. All right. So this is the first step. We're just noticing. We've just repeated a thought and we've had an experience in the body. And I would love to hear from 2 or 3 people what you noticed from starting with the should thought and then doing these other 2 statements that are related but different. If there's anything you noticed, you could again raise your hand or you can write something into the chat. I see it was progressively more space and ease in the body with each statement. Thank you. Yeah, we don't see many people on video. Otherwise, I'd ask you to raise your hand if you felt that as well. I see another person said there was a slight shift in my chest when the last statement came. Feeling more open. Changing it to I prefer softened and changed my feelings and ended the should feeling. Beautiful. I'd love to hear from Susan and then from Jan.
Is my mic working this time?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. I have to say I had a visual on the first statement. I felt like I was drowning in this emotional state.
Mm-hmm.
And like this tightness, everyone is saying the same thing, this tightness in my chest, and I was drowning. And then with the second state where I said, I'm telling myself a story of so and so, it felt like I was floating. I was on a higher level. I wasn't drowning anymore.
Yes.
But with the third state, when I said I prefer, it felt like I was in safety. I was in a boat, or like I'm just above this, sea of emotions, and it felt safe. And I was speaking out of security. I wasn't threatened by this anymore.
Yay, wonderful. Thank you. All right, and Jan.
The words I would use to describe it takes the second one. I'm telling myself a story that so and so should do this. I would say it takes all the power out of it, in the good sense of the word, right? All the emotion and all the tension is taken out of that sentence, which is just, it almost became a bit boring for me. I was like, I'm not so interested in this problem anymore. It's not, it doesn't have that urgency that grabs me the first time I said it with the should. And then when I went to, I would prefer that she did so and so. I almost became free. It's like I was like, well, I can create what I want. I can prefer what I want, and I can choose this or that. I can just slot in any preference that I have, and all the options became very easy to look at.
Beautiful, beautiful. I see in the chat a little bit off topic, so I'll pause on that one. So thank you, Jan. And I'm really celebrating. Look at how much more flexibility there was. All we did is we worked with our thoughts a bit. Look at how much more flexibility and relating we created right there, moving from unskilled into awakening. And so, of course, the next step is to really be able to identify our own feelings and needs and the feelings and needs of the other. And before we go into that next step, I want to hear from Priyanka.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just had a judgment about this practice that what if we're doing this practice in a way it's denying us our reality? Like whatever happens, it's just a story I'm telling myself. Do you understand what I mean? Like I'm afraid that maybe it's some kind of inner manipulation. Like it could be used also as some kind of a denial to not face something.
A potential bypass is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So maybe then I go, oh, it's really not a problem. I'm not going to worry about it. Oh, look there's a bird.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I hear that concern. So it's, yes, I absolutely do not want to be telling you to deny what's going on and what's alive in you. We talk a lot in nonviolent communication about what's alive in you, and it's so important to listen to what's going on inside of you and to seek to address it. What we're doing simply is moving out of should thinking or right and wrong thinking or something that is more rigid and into something that has, again, more flexibility, which creates a greater ability to connect with ourselves and with the other person. When we're in should thinking, there's more of a tendency to go into whatever conditioned response we might have around right and wrong. So you're wrong, therefore you should be punished. You're wrong, therefore I should tell you you're wrong. Whatever that conditioning is, we're moving a step out of that and coming more into a place of choice. So this next step is very important in terms of still addressing, like, something's not working for me. I didn't go into, I prefer that my ex-husband pay me child support and then just drop it. I did not do that. I still had a preference. And so I wanted to be persistent, not demanding, but persistent in expressing my preference and doing it in a way that would have the best chance of my needs being really heard, understood, and appreciated and addressed. And so by being able to release the should, he felt less under attack, and he felt safer to have a conversation with me that eventually led to us finding a solution. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. I see another hand raised from a phone number, 615-895-1130.
Yes, thank you. My name is Beth.
Hi, Beth.
I've done something similar and often catch myself in the shoulds and translate it. But in this practice, I've not used or worked with the word prefer before. And so I did that in, instead of saying, this is a renter, instead of saying he should be paying his rent, I said I would prefer he pay his rent. And that didn't give me the relief I was hoping for. But I used another word that seemed to work better for me. I said, I wish he would pay his rent.
Beautiful.
Somehow, energetically, that connected to my longing more. And like the previous caller was saying, it didn't deny my longing, where prefer is kind of almost an intellectual activity. I say, I wish he would pay his rent. That connected more to what I was feeling.
Oh, thank you. I love that. Yeah, I wish might also, for some of us, wish might feel more connected to a prayer. Like, let me put out an energy of intention. So I really love the use of that word. Thank you for offering that, Beth.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, I want to just check the chat. So I see somebody said, a bit off topic. I could find that I'm telling myself a story speaks to me when I change it to, I'm reading an inner story. Thank you for that comment. Yeah, it's wonderful to find the words that work for you. So I really appreciate that people are doing that. Let's see. Another comment. I feel like this activity is about how we are becoming aware here that this is a choice we can make to view situations through the language of love. Yeah, thank you. Letting go of shoulda, focusing on needs and feelings. Absolutely. Another comment. I am not, quote unquote, myself, the role. Be conscious, and I'm becoming the observer. Yes, this is another thing that can happen when we move out of should and into more of an observation. Oh, I notice that I'm having this thought. Then we can step out and step into being an observer, which is a very common spiritual practice. From another comment, from they should to I need, right? So moving from that thought, they should, to what are my needs? Let me put my awareness there. And then let me see how I might be able to address that. And I see another comment on the power of words to create somatic change in the body. Absolutely. Been able to shift the way we feel in the body from the power of words. So thank you, everyone, for these pieces. We have about 9 minutes to be exact. And so this next step in becoming capable is that we want to, still in awakening, we're really learning self-empathy. We're learning how we can empathize for ourselves and start to empathize for each other. Whereas capable, we're able to do it more on the fly. And so this is another muscle that we want to practice often in nonviolent communication, is this practice of empathy. And so I have those feelings and needs lists. I'm actually going to copy paste those again because I think they've kind of gotten lost a bit in the chat. And I want to make sure that you have those available. I also just want to take a moment and acknowledge that right here, I'm putting in the feelings connected to unmet needs and the universal needs. So this is assuming that we have painful feelings and unmet needs, which in this particular circumstance, that's what's going on. We're in some kind of pain when we have the thought that somebody should do something that they're not, or when we have an unmet wish, an unmet longing. So these are the feelings that tend to be generated, and these are the needs that may not be met. So we want to do a practice in self-empathy first. So with that statement, I need, or I prefer, or I wish for this person to do this thing, I want to invite you to identify what are the feelings that are alive in you as it relates to this particular situation. And so I want to invite you to look at that list. And let's see, I don't think I have the power to do a share screen right now. We only have Jan as the host. So I'm going to just invite you to open that up on your own screen to notice what you're feeling.
You can share screen now, Katrina.
Ah, wonderful.
Mm.
So I'm going to open up. It'll take me just a moment. If it's loaded yet, let's see. Still loading. So these are some of the pain, some of the feelings that might be alive in you as it relates to this particular experience. Okay. So again, if you have a place to write, it's really good to write them down. One of the things that I've also done, just a little trick that I found very helpful, is I've printed these out and I have some laminated versions of them. Generally, I don't like to use that much plastic, but with a laminated version of this, you can use a wet erase marker and you can just circle all the words that are resonant as a way of highlighting them. Sometimes a list can be overwhelming. So that's one thing you can do, is to highlight them. And then let me see, I am going to do a stop share for a moment so I can open up the needs list. Anytime we have these difficult feelings, it's because there are needs that are not met. And so this is my version of the needs list. This is my company's name is Love Smart. I've got a set of cards that can help you to practice empathy on the fly as needed. Love Smart cards were something that I created again 14 years ago when I went, oh, wow, nonviolent communication is super helpful and I want to learn this quickly. The basic practice is to be able to identify our feelings and needs. And as you can see, there's a lot of words here. And sometimes you might think that you need something and it's not on the list, but it's just hard to remember, was that on the list or not? And if it's not, why isn't it? And so I found that it was easier for me to build my vocabulary by having a set of cards. But I want to just give you some time to look at this and to identify what are some of the needs that are alive in you as it relates to that should statement. And then, of course, we would go back once you're feeling complete with that. And I know I've not given you enough time to really go into this and to be thorough. When I have something that's really up for me, like the situation I had with my ex-husband, for me to be very thorough, I needed over an hour. But I wouldn't just do these feelings and needs. I would also take time to do gratitude practice. I would look at the feelings connected to met needs. and look at my needs that were met, either in the present or the past in my relationship with him, as a way to fill my own cup and to resource myself so that I had more energy to meet him with love in my heart and presence, as opposed to being in a place of pain, right? If I was only doing self-empathy and looking at my painful feelings and unmet needs, I was not necessarily happy to see him. So I had to take time to also remember the good times. And that gave me more fuel to be able to be with him with loving presence and an open heart, as opposed to my pain body. Another thing that I did is I would look to, this is not a direct part of nonviolent communication, but it fits very well, is I would look at character strengths. And so character strengths are, what do I want to bring to the table? Right? I want to bring presence, I want to bring love, compassion, tactfulness with assertiveness, creativity. So I would also take some time to look at what are the energies that I want to bring in. And so that was part of my over an hour-long process that I would do to prepare myself to have these difficult conversations. Right. I would love to hear from anyone we've only got a couple minutes left. I wish I could stretch out time. If there's any ahas that you had as you looked at feelings and needs, anything that you noticed. Again, you can put them in the chat, of course. And if you took time to identify the feelings and needs of the other person, you could maybe share that as well. Yeah. So, and I know I just asked you to do a really big thing in a short amount of time. So I understand that you might need some more time. Yeah, Claire, I see you just put in the comments that the last statement is supporting you to move from turbulence to curiosity. So I just wanted to take a moment to show you, I'd said that I had created a set of cards. Originally, they were handmade. And so these are the cards that I had made to be able to teach myself nonviolent communication. And I now really enjoy using these with clients in my workshops. It's a remarkable tool to make it fun and easy to learn nonviolent communication. So my website is here, and I will put that in the chat as well, so that you have that and you know how you can contact me. All right, we have 1 minute left for any final questions and comments. Again, my apologies, it's not a longer time, but if you would love to experience more of me, please feel free to go to my website. You can go to the free tools tab and you can enter your email there. That will give you access to these needs lists, feelings and needs lists, and a whole lot more. And then you'll also receive every once in a while an email from me that will give you more of these kinds of tools, as well as let you know about any other offerings that I have. So yeah, I really, really appreciate your time here with me. I'll do is thank you for the message in the chat. I'm so delighted that you've enjoyed this session. So thank you. Do the cards ship overseas? They do, and of course, shipping is more expensive. I do have a shipping company that I work with, so feel free to send me an email, and I can send a quote for shipping and let you know how much that would be. So I very much enjoyed sharing the session with you, and it is time for me to transition over to our next trainer. And so let me see, I need to get my notes again. So I've got all that ready. Yeah. So, wow, I so loved our time together today. And Mary McKenzie is going to be offering our next session. She's focusing on request consciousness and making requests. So Mary McKenzie, I'm so delighted to be introducing her to you today. She is an author, a trained mediator, and a CNVC certified trainer of nonviolent communication. She holds a master's degree in human relations from Northern Arizona University, and she's the co-founder of the NVC Academy, which is an amazing resource of so many courses. I highly recommend checking it out. It's the only online school for learning nonviolent communication. So you can learn more about Mary and many of her offerings at, let's see, I gotta put this in the chat. So here's the link. This is where you can get her bio and learn more about those offerings. As for me right now, I'm just feeling so delighted. I really enjoyed this time with you, and it met many needs for me, including joy, community, contribution. Yeah, and it's like emotional intimacy. It's very intimate to be sharing this kind of stuff, and that's meaningful. It really touches my heart. So after the event concludes, everyone who's registered for the call will get access to all 28 sessions. If you arrived here without registering, it's no problem. Just follow the link and register now. Jan will be posting that link in the chat. If you're leaving us now, please consider the following requests. Fulfilling these requests will support CNVC in continuing our mission to make nonviolent communication accessible through our website and our network of trainers. First, please buy as many copies of the book as you are joyfully moved to purchase. Again, Jan's going to put a link in the chat for you, and all of the profits go to support the Center for Nonviolent Communication and this important work that we are doing globally as one big global family. So the books are only $10 a piece, and a great gifts, and the holiday season is coming up right now. So please do consider everybody who you believe might enjoy this book. Jan will be posting a link where you can purchase the book. And second, please consider becoming a monthly sponsor for the Center of Nonviolent Communication. By donating a regular amount, we're creating a level of support and security for the Center for Nonviolent Communication, which really helps them to be able to plan for the future and support us all to do this work that we love bringing to the world. And finally, if you have any feedback about the event today, we do want to hear it. So we'll also have that link posted in the comments. Thank you all for your continued support and engagement in this important work. We're grateful to be here in partnership with you.